Coming up on Zestology, everybody loves the sunshine, an incredible clothing hack to energize you, an app to help you biohack, how a trip to the dump could seriously help you up your game, and lots more. Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation. Welcome back. I'm Tony, and I've been doing this podcast for... It's in its 7th year now. So we started in 2015. And I've decided it's time for a bit of a podcast refresh. So this is a new format that I'm trying out today, and I would love your feedback on it. Here's my thinking. Without blowing my own trumpet too much, when I started this podcast, I suppose it was one of the first podcasts, especially in the UK, that was kind of devoted to hacking and biohacking and kind of natural energy solutions. And in fact, even now, there aren't that many podcasts on energy out there. And more recently, I think there's a lot of podcasts. I mean, there's just a lot more podcasts in general, but there's a lot of podcasts that do something quite similar to mine. Now, I would like to think that this is, different and maybe better than a lot of them. And certainly the quality of the guests is really important to me. But I've been thinking that I'd quite like to try a format which is a little bit snappier. So from today, trying something different. I mean, it's a one-off, this one, and I would love your feedback on it. Please do message me through the website, tony@tonywrighton.com. Send me an email and let me know what you think. Bear in mind that often people don't like change, so try and factor that in to your feedback. But if you really don't like it, that's great as well. But what I'm thinking is slightly less long interviews, although I will still do them with the bigger guests, and slightly more in the way of a faster, snappier moving podcast, if that's a word, where it follows kind of my adventures, my biohacking, a little bit more current in terms of what's going on in the world of natural health and biohacking and testing stuff out. So kind of a bit more in the way of adventures. I would love your opinion. Bear in mind, think of this as a pilot episode today, and we will see how we go. But yeah, head to tonywrighton.com. Please do let me know what you think. My idea is that it would be 20 to 30 minutes, and it would reflect a little bit more what we talk about on the newsletter as well. So different hacks to energize you, interspersed with great new interviews, some of the best interviews that I've kind of got on the archive. So if I'm talking about vitamin D, for example, I might dig out Dave Asprey talking about vitamin D or whatever it might be, and we'll see how we go. So yeah, just bear in mind that a lot of people don't like change, me included. I remember when they changed one of my favourite websites, one of my favourite sporting websites a few years ago, I was outraged, and then a week later I kind of didn't even notice it. But I would really like your feedback, and it is something that I am considering changing because I suppose the other thing that I think is important is that our attention spans have got a little bit shorter and we have less time. And when I started this podcast, there weren't many podcasts that I listened to. And now I listen to a lot, and I don't have that much time to listen to podcasts. So bearing that in mind, I want to factor in 20 or 30 minutes in your week, which is kind of going to really sort out your week, focusing on the best new and existing hacks in the area of NLP, biohacking, natural health. I've got my mindful coffee. We're ready to go. Starting off today with clothing to energize you. I've been wearing silly socks in the evening, and it seriously helps with sleep. As you know, I brought out my book about a month ago, my new book, and it's a bit of a shame that I didn't discover this sooner because I might have put it in the book. But these compression socks, I've been surprised at how effective this hack is. Now, I first read about it on Ben Greenfield's site, former Zestology guest Ben Greenfield, and others as well. And I was looking into compression socks in terms of athletic performance and recovery. There is a lot of research and information, if you look around the internet, around how compression gear can help with your recovery and with your performance and so on. But here's the weird thing. Wearing these, this is going to sound really odd, wearing these compression socks at night helps you pee less in the night. It's a massive improvement in your quality of life. If you're only going to the loo once in the night compared to twice or three times, that is a huge improvement. Now, the way it works is you put these compression socks on early evening. At least this is what I'm doing. And you might want to speak to your practitioner about this before copying me. And then any fluid which has built up through the day, been on your feet all day, is gathered in your feet and in your legs, gets pushed up into the rest of the body, and you go to the loo. If you don't wear compression socks, once you get into bed, you put your feet up, and that is when the fluid comes into your body, and then you need to pee more in the middle of the night because it's got nowhere to go. Does that make sense? So you don't wear them while you sleep, you wear them in the build-up to sleep. There's lots more online. There's a lot more on Ben Greenfield's site about this as well. And if you are interested in peeing less in the night, because I have to say it's helping my sleep a lot at the moment, I do think this is a clothing tweak to energize you, because if you get your sleep right and you're sleeping better, you're going to have more energy in the morning. Do check with your practitioner before using this one, and don't wear them during sleep, only beforehand. I now take voicemail for the podcast. Yes, you can ask me any question on the voicemail. You can tell me about any hack. I will include your recording in a forthcoming podcast. As I said, this whole thing is a new podcast format, and I thought I'd try this as well. Let's see if it works out. It may well not, and if it doesn't, I reserve the right to drop it very quickly and quietly and go back to the original format. I mean, some might say, why mess with it when it's working? And I think, you know what? Because it's fun. And actually, I've worked in broadcasting a long time, and I quite like tinkering around and being creative, and I wanted to try something different. But anyway, if you want to head to tonywrighton.com/voicemail, you can just click on the button and your voicemail will come straight to me. So it's tonywrighton.com/voicemail. It can be a question, it can be something that you've been trying that's working, it can be an article that you've read, or a book that is amazing, or anything that you think in the world of biohacking is interesting, or maybe you are an NLP practitioner and something's been working very well for you. There's a max of 90 seconds on the recording, which is set by the company that is basically giving me the button that I can put on my site. But it's tonywrighton.com/voicemail. Now let's move straight on to vitamin D to energize you. Everybody loves the sunshine. Wherever you go in the world, there's a cute little app called D-Minder, and it tracks the sun and it tells you when you can get vitamin D. And vitamin D has been on my mind quite a bit recently because the weather's getting nicer, and all of a sudden in London, we don't have to huddle inside all day long, but we can actually get some vitamin D naturally rather than taking supplements. So this is an app called D-Minder. I wouldn't say it's the most technologically advanced app, but it's quite clever because it's sort of got a stopwatch interface that lets you set your session target by either amount of vitamin D to get or time. And then it will count up or down to your target, and it tells you how much vitamin D you're getting. And it applies all the factors that determine how much vitamin D you can get. So you put in things like what your skin tone is, your age, your weight, the amount of skin that you're exposing. To be honest, it is a bit of a clunky app, but it is a nice idea. And considering 80% of people are vitamin D deficient, and vitamin D helps us so much in terms of energy, especially at the end of a long winter, like now, it's definitely worth considering. And since we're talking about vitamin D, I thought I would just refresh my memory and yours of when I was talking to Nadine Artemis, who I love so much. And when I was talking to Nadine Artemis recently about vitamin D.
We do have the science, that shows us, like microbial peptides are created. We understand now that we have thousands of vitamin D receptors on, all over our skin and in places where the sun doesn't shine. And those vitamin D receptors need that interaction of sunbeam and skin, because it's a different vitamin D that's created. It's very rich in a very essential cholesterol sulfate. I think of it as this liquid sunshine. It's this precursor to a bunch of hormonal and peptide functions. And it's a water soluble vitamin D that's created. And the supplement is a fat soluble vitamin D.
Yeah. Because you talk about sunshine, and you also, since I've been reading your book, I've been really trying to get outside in the morning for my eyes as well, getting as much light into the eyes, just absorbing as much eyes. I think you said the average 45-year-old only absorbs half as much blue light, which made me shudder a little bit. And so I've been trying to be getting out twice as long to get more light in the eyes. But that's important as well for energy, isn't it?
Yes, and our circadian rhythms, and also the light. There's a place sort of in the center of the brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which it activates. And again, we don't know what all these things do in the body, but we know that they are supposed to be engaging with the elements. We are living in relationship to these forces of the universe. And it's wonderful that it's like 2021 and we have houses and running waters, generally speaking. So it's like we don't have to brave the elements like we used to, but we want to keep up that relationship. Like, it's fun. It doesn't have to be a survival relationship anymore, but we need the sun and fresh air and water and the gifts of the earth to be our, our finest bathing attendants, to be our energy producers, our energy creators. Because again, it's not necessarily going to be another bottle of cream or a bottle of a supplement that's really going to get to the core of how we're rejuvenating our bodies. How are we resourcing our source energy? And I really feel like it comes from a relationship with the elements.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Magnesium Breakthrough, the most potent, complete, full spectrum magnesium formula ever created. And if you want to kind of beat stress and get fit and sleep better and recover faster, Magnesium Breakthrough is what you need. And it's been out of stock for a while, but you can now get it, and you can get 10% off by heading to magbreakthrough.com/zestology. Use the code zestology10. I've got to tell you about my recent experience with Magnesium Breakthrough, actually, because I really do use this stuff myself, and I'm so pleased that I have podcast sponsors that are very aligned with my values. And magnesium is one of those go-to supplements. I actually wrote about it in my book recently. And recently I ran out of Magnesium Breakthrough. A couple of weeks ago, I suppose. And I've started to get really dehydrated over the last couple of weeks, and I could not figure out why. And it's been seriously doing my head in. And then I tried to figure out all the things that I've changed, which is probably the kind of thing that you do. And I consulted my spreadsheets because, as you know, I like a good spreadsheet. And discovered that, I'd run out of Magnesium Breakthrough. I'd sort of forgotten. And so I, just like everybody else, went and used my Zestology 10 discount code and bought some more. And it arrived yesterday. And today the dehydration is gone after 2 weeks away. So I thought it was worth telling you this story because I actually interviewed the world's authority on magnesium on this podcast, Dr. Carolyn Dean. She's been on a couple of times. And it's definitely worth going back and listening to her episodes on magnesium because, she talks about dehydration. And in her book, The Magnesium Miracle, which I consulted this morning, there is a section on dehydration. You need magnesium to hydrate. So I'm very pleased that I've got this discount code, if for no other reason that from a selfish point of view, it works for me as well. But you can head to magbreakthrough.com/zestology and you can get all sorts of discounts on there actually. But use that code zestology10 and then if you buy in bulk, you'll get more discounts as well. And if you are in the UK, then you go to bioptimizers.co.uk and use the same discount code. So I hope that helps. Before we finish the podcast, I want to tell you about an allergy investigation to energize you. Have you ever had unexplained rashes on your hands and feet? Or you just kind of feel a bit off and you're not quite sure why? Or you get rashes on other parts of your body as well. Turns out that many people, especially those who are histamine intolerant, react very badly to nickel. So I wanted to focus on nickel for a couple of minutes. When you start to cut it out, you will feel so much better with nickel. if you are someone who suffers from a nickel allergy. I recently had to swap my wedding ring out because of the nickel in it. I mean, can you believe it? It's taken me all these years to meet someone and get married and invest quite a bit of money in a wedding ring as well, it's got to be said. And we ordered it from an American site called Catbird. And it turns out that they put nickel in their white gold wedding rings. And the moment I put it on, actually, the first night that I put my wedding ring on, which was my wedding night, I started to notice that I was getting a bit of a rash on my fingers. I mean, it's not very attractive, is it? But over the next month, I was just getting a bit of a rash on I felt okay, but I was getting a rash on my fingers and my toes. And I took the wedding ring off and it went away quite quickly. And it turns out that a lot of people get this as well. So I posted about this on my histamine intolerance Instagram, and I'm delighted that I've now recorded a special module on my online program about nickel in jewellery and nickel in cookware and other areas as well. If it's affecting you, this module will change your life. And in the intro to this podcast, I said how a trip to the dump could seriously help you up your game. Because if you've got nickel in your cookware and the nickel is leaching into your food, then you might want to take it to the dump and start cooking with stuff that is not full of nickel. I'm not going to stick my wedding ring in the dump, but right now I've been wearing silicone wedding rings that cost £3 off Amazon. I mean, love isn't dead, is it? Do you know what? They're pretty good, actually. I have recruited nickel and cobalt allergy coach Christina David on this online program, who knows everything there is to know about nickel allergies. So I'm just going to leave it there for the moment. I'm just going to put that in your mind, ask you to ever think about it. And if you're interested in taking the program, head to histamineintolerance.net and check out what Christina has to say in the bonus module about nickel allergies. You're really getting some serious expertise there, and I just think it's fascinating that it's something I didn't know at all, and then I put this ring on, I start getting a rash, and you might be listening to this and thinking, bloody hell, you're a bit sensitive, aren't you, mate? You've got histamine intolerance, you've got nickel allergy, what else have you got? And to which I say, yeah, maybe I am. but I think a lot of people have these kind of little niggles in various areas that they can't quite work out how to sort. And I think it's worth looking into this. You know, it might not be that you're feeling 50% worse when you wear a wedding ring or you cook with nickel cookware, but you might feel 5% better when you cut it out. And that's why it's worth investigating. So that is pretty much it for this first episode of Zestology under a new format. As I say, if you want to head over to histamineintolerance.net, you can find out plenty more on nickel in jewellery and in cookware and everything else. There's the vitamin D app to energize you called D-Minder. You can leave me a question or tell me about something you've been trying out on TonyWrighton.com/voicemail. And I mean, you can also leave me a voicemail and tell me what you think of this new format as well. And remember to check out the compression socks as well. I just bought some off Amazon. I don't think they're a particularly special compression socks. I mean, I'm going to give you a quick warning. You do look extraordinary when you're walking around in the evening, especially if you're wearing shorts, which I like to do in summer, and compression socks. But that is a price I'm willing to pay for much better sleep. Do you know what? It's not just the fact that I'm peeing less in the night as well. I'm sleeping deeper. So I can't really understand why that is. But when I look at my Oura ring, my deep sleep stats are pretty much the highest they've ever been. So I'd love to know if that works for you as well. Don't wear them when you're sleeping. Do check with your practitioner before using that one and let me know what you think. That's pretty much it for this episode of Zestology. My book is still out and I would love to know what you think. That is on Amazon and it's called When Life is a Bit Meh, You Need Energy. And let me know what you think about that. And remember, today's podcast partner is Magnesium Breakthrough. It is such a brilliant product. And as you know, from what I was telling you earlier, I do use it myself. If you want to beat stress and get fit, sleep better, recover faster, and just feel hydrated like I did when I got involved in it recently. There's no synthetic additives or preservatives in the formula. It is the most potent oral magnesium you will ever find. Period. You can head to magbreakthrough.com/zestology to find out more. Thank you for listening. See you next time.